Today's video is sponsored by our good friends at Famous Faces and Funnies located in Melbourne, Florida. Check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as our friends at Docking Bay 94 located in Boca Raton, Florida. Check us out on comicsandgames.com. Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of Codename New 202. Hi, I'm your presenter, Shabu Are You? And it's going to be that time of month again, and no, I don't mean walking around eggshells around the misses. Unlike other channels, I like to focus in on comic books that I picked up at the month that are a mixture of old and new. Now, these are just friendly suggestions for the fellow GenXer. And I'll also add why I targeted these comics in particularly, and hopefully these will give you the tools to be able to go in and show these modern comic youngsters that yes, we are the generation that made the hobby what it is today. So let's take a look. Now, because this channel mainly focuses on modern G.I. Joe by IDW, we have to start off with G.I. Joe issue number 285. And for my regulars that follow me on a continual basis, they know that in issue number 281, Larry Hamma introduced a new character named Sherlock. And even modern comic people have been specking on that issue. But what they don't know is that Larry Hamma not introduced more than one new character in the G.I. Joe mythos. A new villain has been introduced. And we're seeing this new team kind of coming in and blending in with the old established team members. And it's kind of intriguing. As a fan, a longtime fan, I'm enjoying this run so far. I highly recommend you stay tuned and join me in the action of recapping. And if you're specking, go back. Issue number 281, 282. You're going to see some other new characters that kind of were pushed under the radar. And if you had to look and really follow along like I do on this channel to realize that, hey, there's a new character. And I spoke with some of the people on the IDW G.I. Joe team, and they confirmed, yes, indeed, there have been a big push to introduce new characters to the G.I. Joe mythos. So stay tuned for the recap of issue number 285. The next one, we're going to get the big news for the month, and that is Todd McFarlane and Donny Cates' King Spawn number 1. And for all of us Gen Xers, we remember when Spawn number 1 came out and how much of a hubbub and hype that surrounded. Well, this is pretty much the same thing. Is it going to be worth anything down the road? I doubt it, because there's been so many variant covers and so many prints of this because everyone is specking on it. In a good way, it's just a must-have, just like Spawn was back in the day in Spider-Man number 1. If you remember, that's what this issue is in the modern era. And it's also a team-up with Donny Cates and Todd McFarlane. To the Gen Xer that may not know, Donny Cates is this generation's Todd McFarlane or Jim Lee or what have you. The guy is just a big, he's huge and popular in modern comics. So definitely I would pick this up because it's fun, interesting, and do it for the joy of it. And just, picking this up, I do remember riding my bike, or no, I was driving then. Yeah, I was driving around that time. So driving the car to the comic shop and picking up Spawn number 1. So King Spawn, this is a one to target. The next pickup is a series that I thought was just like, because I heard everybody talking about this, and I was like, because of Spawn number 1, X-Men number 1, Death of Superman, when anything becomes like popular, I kind of tend to shy away from it. Like, oh, I'm not going to fall into that. But Stray Dogs series has been amazing. And this is Stray Dogs number 5, the final installment of this wonderful series. And if you're a dog or cat lover, an animal lover like I am, you'll be on the edge of your seat. So if you haven't, I would highly recommend starting off and reading issue number 1 and continue. Well, this is the second. Oh, actually, they're up to 5 prints in some cases. So that tells you how much popularity this series has. And what makes it interesting is the different variants. they make homages to classic horror titles. So you're seeing I have the second print of issue number 5, but the one I targeted was the second print, an homage to one of my favorite movies from the 90s, The Crow. I mean, I still think had Brandon Lee lived, what an impact he would have had in cinema. That guy, it still to this day, his passing can be felt. And The Crow is one of those books that is so 90s. I mean, with the music and everything, I had to get this. And this is the 1/10 variant of the second print. So this is highly sought after. And I'm glad, thanks to Famous Faces and Funnies, for being so kind as to allocate one to me. And again, this is Stray Dogs number 5. Pick it up. Now, when I do these, it's actually kind of serves dual purposes. These are some of the books I'm also going to be submitting to PGX or EGX grading services. So in my own collection, I pulled out the New Avengers number 7. And this is going to be a very, very important book. Basically, it's the first Illuminati. So, and then the Invasion series that's going to be on Disney Plus. A lot of speculation. Well, not speculation. It's confirmed. But this book is one of the ones you should definitely target, put aside, or sending into grading. I expect this particular issue in general, the New Avengers number 7, to just skyrocket. And we find out that Spider-Woman, Jessica Drew, is actually a Creed. So that's another important issue. And we saw at the end of WandaVision, again, it's going to be very interesting to see, but this is a book that even the modern comic kiddos are recommending and specking on with this particular issue. So this is going on to be graded. Now the next book is basically, there's no spec, no nothing. And to be honest, it's a guilty pleasure. A lot of people kind of stick their nose when I talk about this, but Jim Balent I think he's one of the most underrated artists from the 90s to now. And had he played ball with the big publishers like DC and Marvel, I think he would have been up there with the Jim Lees, the Rob Liefeld, and Todd McFarlane. But, to Jim Balent's credit, he totally went in a different direction. Some people say this stuff about him, but kudos to him for sticking to his beliefs and following his happiness. And I like his drawing. So this is Tarot Witch of the Black Rose number 129. And everybody knows what he's famous for. And I just get a big chuckle. I mean, I love how he over-exaggerates the female form. I think it's hilarious. But I enjoy these books. If you like spells, witchcraft, and all that other stuff, this is a series that I have featured on an episode of my channel. I know a lot of the traditionalists look down on it, what have you, but I like that. I like the fact that, this guy is just throwing a big middle finger up in the air and doing what he wants. So this is the main title, Tarot Witch of the Black Rose. And then he started a new series called Raven Hex. And again, the cover artwork speaks for itself. That's basically what you're getting. And to me, it looks like a heavy metal album. That's why I love his drawings. If you grew up, especially Ozzy Original Sin, that album cover, that's basically what this is. It's a comic book like that. And, people have their opinions about it, but it's my guilty pleasure. I enjoy it just to enjoy it. I think it's fun, lighthearted, and you might be interested in that stuff too. So remember, Jim Balent's two series, Tarot Witch of the Black Rose and Raven Hex. These guys are sisters, and they're witches. One's supposed to be a good, one's but the dark side. So I tend to lean with the dark side. Anyway, this is another one of my pickups for the month. Now that's a nice segue into what I'm about to feature next. And that is Ghost Rider Marvel Spotlight number 7. I do have number 6, which is on the way. And the rationale behind this is that Marvel Spotlight number 5 is the first appearance of Ghost Rider. And that has gone through the roof. And not attainable to a lot of people. So what's the next best option? And I tell that to all my viewers. The next best option is what you should target. And I highly recommend going down that path. And this is the third appearance of Ghost Rider. So that's why this is a very, very important book to pick up and to put away. But this is going to get graded. Because there's only, in my mind is this, being in auditing and dealing with numbers, there's only a defined limited number of quantities. So there could only be X amount of the first appearance. And then once they're basically out of the market, the next thing is going to be the second and third. So get a leg up. And we all know that Marvel, the MCU, they're going to be doing a lot with Ghost Rider. There may be more than one Ghost Rider. As the fan knows that there's been 3 individuals that have portrayed Ghost Rider. I think 4. There's one girl too. So anyway, there's going to be a multiple number of Ghost Riders as one speculation. And we have Blade coming out. I mentioned the Illuminati. Doctor Strange Into the Madness. Multitude of Madness. Whatever. There's going to be a lot of stuff that Disney is going to be diving into to give that fan a little bit of a more darker. I don't think it's going to be like blood and gore, but because it is Disney. But this is an untapped resource that they have, and I think that they have the right people established, the right credibility, where they could venture off into such titles. And another good Ghost Rider is more of the modern era, is the Rise of the Midnight Suns, issue number 28. Where this is the first of the Midnight Suns. And I think this is another really inexpensive but important book to pick up and spec on. And again, I'm sending both of these in to get graded as well. And when Marvel Spotlight number 6 come in, that's going to be sent off to grading. But again, don't sleep on these, man. These are very good alternative to the first appearance of Ghost Rider, which is in the thousands. So you do the math, and just like investing, even though I am totally against, I don't do this hobby for monetary value. This is just pure love from me. And I've shown on my unboxings, I get excited when a book is 7.0. I'm not someone that's like, oh, that's not a 9.8, that's trash. No, to me, as long as the book looks nice and it looks good on my display wall in the back, I'm happy. And I like the fact that I have 2 good grading services in PGX and EGS grading services. And I use both for different types of things. And I mentioned in my video, I like to use PGX for most of my G.I. Joes because they're a little bit thinner and lighter, and they're able to hang on the wall back there. When you have a CGC or a PGX slab, they're a little bit more heavier, so you might have to put an extra command strip to make sure they stay up on the wall. But again, Marvel Spotlight number 7 and Ghost Rider number 28 are 2 books you should look into. Now the next pickup actually originated from MegaCon, and I was able to meet Jamie Tinsdale. He does wonderful G.I. Joe covers, and my followers know I love his artwork. I think it's great. So having the opportunity to meet him and talk to him, it was excellent. And that's pretty cool about I'm not a big con guy. I don't know, I've never been to one. So it was interesting. So this is his new endeavor. This is totally his creation. And which is nice because, I know these guys work so hard to be able to have this opportunity to create their own character. Hence Todd McFarlane and Spawn. That was his baby, and he had established himself to get that status, and he worked hard to get there. So for an artist to be able to do that and have that in their resume, it's definitely something wild. And the book I'm talking about is White Widow. I got number 1, but this is issue number 2. And I also picked up issue number 3. And again, to say White Widow is a combination of Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman, and Black Widow. It's basically that. And I like the story so far. It's pretty interesting, and the artwork by Jamie is phenomenal. So I highly recommend checking out this new character. It's fun, inexpensive, and I think you too will be satisfied with this new character. And it's published by Absolute Comics Group. So again, new independent label publisher, and just to be able to produce something new and interesting, I think it's definitely a thumbs up. So if you haven't, try this. There's only like I think they're up to issue number 5 or 7. I'm not remember, but I'm employing my 3-issue rule. I always give every new series 3 issues to make a determination whether I like it or I don't like it. So I'm at issue number 3, and I gotta say I like it. So definitely check out White Widow. The next book is kind of interesting. I feel that she made a brief appearance in the last X-Men Dark Phoenix saga, Dark Phoenix movie, and I just think that Dazzler is something that I think when X-Men and mutants are introduced, that is a very attractive character for Disney to not expand upon. So this is Dazzler number 1. She also has, her first appearance in X-Men, which is kind of like, expensive as well. So I would highly recommend targeting Dazzler number 1. Get it, put it away. I have a strong feeling because she's all about, dancing, and Disney loves all that shit. So it's something to definitely think about and spec about, because I think that she may be one of the prominent mutants that will be featured in the MCU going forward, unlike what Sony did with her in that little brief scene that she had. So this is something I highly recommend. Hey, it's inexpensive, it's not going to hurt anything, but definitely an issue to target. And man, this screams 80s, this cover. Even though, she's a late 70s, early 80s. This just screams at it. And I love this, her initial unveil, her initial costume. I know a lot of people, especially our good friend at Retro Blasting, liked her when they gave her that more like superhero type of thing. But man, give me a pair of bell bottoms and dancing shoes any day of the week. I think this is far out. The next book is another guilty pleasure. If you've been a regular on the channel, it's no surprise how much I love Elvira, Mistress of the Dark. I've always thought that she was hilarious. Besides the obvious 2 reasons, but her comedy and just had childlike silliness is what always made me laugh, and no matter what, and it made me chuckle. So we picked up her new series. I know, and we had a couple episodes when Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, and also The Shape of Elvira, those comic series, and I think written by David Avalone, who was kind enough to do a Q&A with us here on the channel. So this is her latest series, Elvira meets Vincent Price. Are you kidding me? That's hilarious. So this is the first issue, and then of course you guys know that I always like to pick up the photo variants when it comes to Elvira's comic series. They're hilarious. Of course, and this one is kind of like, just instead of the popcorn she had in this iconic photo, it's just a finger going up. But again, this is just a wonderful treat, a delight, and another guilty pleasure. I may do an episode covering, a recap of the series so far when we're a few issues into this. But just the theme, I don't even know if it's a one-off or a series, but just the whole thing of Elvira meets Vincent Price, it's just hilarious. So I'm looking forward to that. And the next one is going to be Lady Death. Lady Death has been popular for many years, and now that Coffin Comics and Brian has his own thing going on, pretty much just like what I said about Jim Balin, same applies to Brian over at Coffin Comics. And I like the cover variants, the artwork, it's wonderful. The stories for me are kind of tough because I don't know, I know he has different series going on featuring the same character. So that's what gets me a little bit confused. I don't know what I'm, am I picking up from this storyline or this storyline? But again, thanks to Famous Faces for just doing the best they could to make sure that I have whatever is the latest Lady Death. And I think as a character, Lady Death is actually really interesting. And you should see a theme here with Ghost Rider and, Tarot, and now Lady Death and Elvira. I do like a little bit of that, maybe because I'm a former metal bass player. I don't know. I love Megadeth, Iron Maiden, that type of music. That's always been, you know, instilled in me. As I just love, and what is weird because I also like Cranberries too, or Oasis, and some hip hop as well. But for me, a good metal song is, that's what I'm talking about right there. So again, you could order these directly from Coffin Comics as well. So it's basically just give it a try and see if it's, your fancy over there. So Lady Death and the new Elvira. So I talked about how, specking around the character Ghost Rider is important. There's several key issues, and I featured that in a previous episode. I featured the first issue from the 90s, Ghost Rider #1. Those are important pickups to get now versus later down the road. Another character that I highly recommend you to look into and to pick out is She-Hulk. She-Hulk #1 from the 70s, the Savage She-Hulk. This issue has skyrocketed through the atmosphere. For me to be able to land one is damn right near impossible, especially when you don't want to spend any money or not too much money. But for She-Hulk #1, regardless, it's worth getting. It's the first appearance of the character. That's #1. #2, there's going to be an MCU series dedicated to this character. That's another big spec. And, the characters that are around her that are important, of course, we know Hulk, Mark Ruffalo. But there's going to be other characters that are unique to the She-Hulk world. That's why I think not only this, but the 90s, the sensational She-Hulk #1, which I have graded and mounted back there, as well as the Incredible Hulk 282. Yeah, that's the first team up of Hulk and She-Hulk together. So those 3 issues I think are important to target for you and have them ready before the popularity becomes big. The same thing with Ghost Rider. Those issues that I mentioned concerning Ghost Rider, I think are very important to target and attack now to have in your personal collection. For when things do blow up and escalate, you could say, hey, I was well ahead on the curve. The other new character that I'm kind of considering focusing on is Shuri, Black Panther's sister. I have a feeling that, with Black Panther 2 coming down the road, now is the time to target anything significant in Shuri's life. I think going forward with, Kamala Khan and America Chavez, this younger Avengers thing is going to be pushed by Disney because Disney is made for kids. It's a child thing. But I think that Disney is going to be pushing in that direction more and, getting all the publicity behind the younger superheroes, their own team, their own world. And maybe every now and then they'll mix in with the bigger MCU. There's a rumor that Riri is going to be in Shang-Chi. Sorry, my brain fart. But I think that, and if people that don't know, Riri is actually the African American young lady who takes on Iron Man mantle. She becomes the Iron Man to these youngsters. So that's another character I highly recommend you guys target and spec. Well, I'm glad you joined me on this episode, and I hope I was helpful to you guys when you make your comic shopping list. Again, these are what I picked up, what I personally targeted. I just feel like, sharing that with you guys just so maybe it'll help you narrow down your searches and just a little bit of why I did it. Not just saying, here is this, here is that, but just give you a little bit of insight information on why I went about doing this. Well, anyway, this is Shabu RU. Stay tuned. We're going to do an EGS unboxing coming up. So we're going to see what books came back from EGS. And my regulars know I love the custom labels. They always differ. Instead of getting the same old boring CGC labels, PGX hits a home run. And I could tell you right now that the labels that Tony did for EGS they are beautiful. They deserve to be on the wall and just displayed. So make sure you stay tuned for that. Also, we're going to do another comic recap. I'm going to look at Larry Hamma's run on Iron Fist, which kind of went below the radar. But again, to us 80s and 90s kids, this is a series showing these modern comic youngsters how to write a comic series. I know shit about Iron Fist, but because of how Larry Hamma writes things out and explain, you could pick this up and easily enjoy learning about this character. So in this 6 issues, I think 6 or 5, I was blown away just how entertaining it is. And remember, I know shit about Iron Fist. So I found this to be very, very, it's like a how to write comics thing. So make sure you stick around for that. This is Shabu Are You signing off.